Welcome to Class 6 of Bioethics at Wilmington College. Today, we are going to take a look at the 4 principles that Beauchamp and Childress developed for bioethics. These 4 principles are used to guide bioethicists and individuals in making decisions about ethical dilemmas. There are many normative ethic theories that people use to analyze bioethical questions. So how do we respond? Do we use all of the systems? Do we only use one? And how do we make a decision about which are the best to use? In 2009, Beauchamp and Childress proposed 4 principles that bioethicists should use in guiding one to medical ethics decisions. They are kind of between categorical imperatives and moral statements and virtues. Beauchamp and Childress have argued that there is a common morality. That is, that all rational beings, humans, can agree upon a set of general moral statements and that there is universal acceptance of these. The 4 principles are respect for autonomy, non-malfeasance, benefits, and justice. And they argue that when one has a specific dilemma, that is a case, should I do this one thing or not, that these 4 principles can guide a person in using different normative ethical theories to make a decision and do an analysis. Respect for autonomy, their first principle, is likely the newest idea in the area of bioethics. It is the notion that decisions on what should be done to an individual is that person's right to make for themselves. That others from the outside should not make those decisions. It is a negative obligation not to interfere in choice. But for a medical practitioner or for a family member, as one is facing an ethical dilemma, there's also a positive component to that obligation to provide appropriate information so that the individual can make an informed decision. That is, to provide education or knowledge so the person will make the best decision for themselves. This has led to, in the 20th and 21st century, the idea of informed consent. When I first started going to the doctor never asked, well, what is it that you want to do? They just made the decision for you, and they decided what treatment you would do. Today, we have hundreds of forms that ascertain that the person has agreed to particular treatments. I kind of like this cartoon. I respect your autonomy, sweetie. I just know I can make it better. There is some truth in that, and that is medical practitioners typically have far more knowledge than an individual can have when they make a decision. Here's another cartoon that is well worth looking at. And that is when we look at public health, the question about vaccination. Does the government have the right to mandate vaccinations? Or do individuals have the right to reject vaccinations or reject their children having vaccinations? In many public school systems in the U.S., a child will not be admitted to the school if they do not have vaccinations. Clearly, vaccination is a good, but there are questions about it. And so we see this idea of autonomy. We see that when we look at this idea of autonomy, that as a broad idea, we sometimes question what are the limits of autonomy. It is not absolute, many would argue. The second principle is non-malfeasance. That is, from the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm. People have a duty not to thwart or defeat someone's interest. Non-malfeasance is a negative duty or obligation. That is, one does not do an action. We find that when we take a look at this duty, not only is it a duty for a medical practitioner, but it also impacts areas such as research ethics, pollution, environmental issues, things like that. Notice in this cartoon, ask your doctor if taking a pill to solve all your problems is right for you. The idea of non-malfeasance is the doctor would have an obligation not to prescribe if the pill caused real harm. Benefits is kind of the flip side of the coin to non-malfeasance. Benefits is the idea that healthcare providers and others have a duty to benefit a patient or other individuals, that they should take positive steps to prevent and to remove harm from the patient. That is, you have a duty to actively promote well-being. As a husband, benefits would mean that I have a duty to actively promote the well-being of my spouse or my children. This idea of benefits is applied not only to the individual patient, but also to the good of the society as whole. Notice, benefits might give us the duty to vaccinate individuals, because vaccination protects everyone from an infection. Benefits raises the issue of paternalism. Benefits might conflict with respect for autonomy. Do I have an obligation from preventing a person from committing suicide? Autonomy would say it's their own choice. But it is a harm, and benefits might tell me that I have an obligation to step in. again, I have a couple cartoons for you to look at that raise some of the ethical dilemmas. Notice that one of the other areas where some would argue benefits might trump autonomy is in the right to die and to choose death or to refuse treatment. The final principle of Beauchamp and Childress is justice. Aristotle saw justice as giving to each that which is his due. Beauchamp and Childress would say that all persons are treated with equal respect. When we talk about justice as a moral principle, we are thinking about fairness, of appropriate treatment for all. We talk about an idea of distributive justice, and we see this idea of distributive justice is when we take a look at individuals within a society. How are they treated when there's a shortage, or we have to make decisions about some people get treatment, some people don't, some people get food or materials, others don't. And we start to see some of the issues of using justice. Because in our society, how we think about justice can be seen from different views. Some people would see justice as each person gets an equal share. So if there is a pie and 5 of us are eating at a table, all 5 of us get an equal-sized piece. A second view of justice is that each person according to their need. This is an idea that we see in communism. Different people have different needs, and so in distribution, we might not give equal shares. That is, how we distribute would be based upon need, and different people have different needs. A third is justice is that each person gets according to their effort. We see this view of justice in capitalism. If you work hard, you produce more, you deserve more. So we distribute according to effort or to contribution. There are many other views of how we look at justice. One is according to free market exchange. What are you willing to give to get? These different views of distributive justice come from Beauchamp and Childress in their 7th edition of Principles of Biomedical Ethics. We see this also in the 2 cartoons here. The top one, the doctor giving the bad news that illness isn't covered in their medical insurance. And the cartoon at the bottom, on one side, we have insurance and what people receive. In the other, we see Hippocrates, who says that you have an obligation to help. So in summary, Beauchamp and Childress proposed 4 principles that they argued all people seem to agree are principles of moral behavior. That is, that they are a common morality that we can use to guide us as we start to analyze bioethical dilemmas. These 4 principles are respect for autonomy, non-malfeasance, benefits, and justice. They are extensively used by bioethicists today, and it is not unusual to see a bioethicist as they are doing an analysis from the perspective of one normative bioethical theory to respond to these 4 principles in that analysis. I hope one of the things that you're beginning to see is that analyzing and making good bioethical decisions is complex. That one has to look at the questions from different angles. That one has to listen to those different perspectives to find the truth in the decision that they make. Next time we're going to take a look at even a greater contribution of complexity, perspectives. That is, not ethical theories that we've been looking at, but other factors that form how we see what is moral. Thank you. Have a good day.